Welcome to The Brave Journey Within with Jim and Jenn. This show is about the spiritual journey and all of the challenges, healing, wisdom, and consciousness expansion experienced along the way.
Welcome back to another edition of Brave Journey Within with Jim and Jenn. And today we're going to be talking about a daily guide to living and what to do when you are feeling stuck. There are many books on how to, well, I'll use the word unstuck. They use a different word, but you get the idea. So, Jen, that's what we're going to be diving into today. I'm sure this comes up in your practice as well.
Yeah, and personally too. I mean, who hasn't felt stuck before? Whether it's just being stuck in a rut and doing the same old thing, or you feel like you're trying to accomplish something and you don't feel like you're getting to where you want to go. There's lots of times people tend to feel stuck. So I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah. And, when I started working with sort of MPeak, which was a collection of these people that were just super high performers. So, like Olympians, special forces soldiers, and like all these high performing surgeons and lawyers. One thing that constantly came up is what can I do to better myself? They
Hmm.
want to know, like, what are you doing? Like, to better your life. Is it jumping into an ice tank? Because I'll do that. Whatever it is that gives me an edge, I'm willing to try. And it was sort of through that I realized how, in my own life, how undisciplined I was, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that whole concept of discipline equals freedom. But the things that you can do in your daily life to make it better, especially if you find that you are feeling stuck, you're never stuck. Like, these are types of people that, what's your problem? Okay, here's three things off the top of my head that we could try without even thinking about it. It's like, oh, these are not people that you tell no to.
Yeah. Right.
We're gonna climb that mountain. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. And so it's just very inspiring to be around, and that's kind of where I wanted to, write this blog and to help people. It's like, all right, what are some things that you can do today, right now, to put your life going in a better direction if you're feeling any kind of way, or if you're doing great right now, how can you make it better?
Yeah, it can always get better.
So one of the things I talk about is right away in the morning, and I'm pretty sure this is ubiquitous among self-help people, is doing a gratitude journal or having a gratitude practice. Like, taking care to actually pinpoint things that you are grateful for in your life and make sure that they are real things and that there is a heart centered connection to them so that you tap into that love. The idea being you have a ton of energy in your heart and we don't tap into it. We usually just wake up, start scrolling through our phone, checking our emails, thinking about our to-do list, and almost immediately that can put you into a funk.
Yeah, yeah, it sure can.
So it is a major shift to be intentional about using that time in a positive way for you, to put you up on a pedestal to kind of have a far more successful day. And so I put like 3 to 5 things. It could be more, it could be less. You might hear people say different. It really depends on you, right? Like in anything, this is just a loose guide. Take what works, leave what doesn't. But um, is that something that you do in your life, or how do you help your clients with that? Is that
Yeah, absolutely, and especially in the times when you feel like you don't have what you're looking for, enough resources, enough love, whatever it is that you're needing more of. The goal and the whole point of it is to be grateful for it in your life anyway. So even if even if you don't have, let's say, enough money, to be in a state of gratitude for the prosperity in your life. And not maybe not just money, but all the resources that you have, all the things that have come to you. Because when you do that, you're in a more heart-centered space and you're opening it up for just all the things that you actually have in your beautiful life, even when it seems like it's difficult. I studied pendulum dowsing and healing under Raymond Grace recently, and he said some of the best things you can do, and he talks a lot about prosperity, so I'll just use that as the example. If you want more prosperity in your life, to be grateful to the spirit of prosperity for being present in your life. And so he looks at it all as an energy. So if you want more energy of something, be grateful for it in your life. He's like, you wake up, you need something else in your life, be grateful for that spirit. And so I just started really doing that. And I did feel a good shift in my life with different things. And so I do think there's something to be said there. And I think a lot of times we get so stuck in our own current experience that we're not seeing, like you said, the bigger picture of what's actually going on. And if we can get out of feeling stuck in that experience and expand with gratitude, we certainly can pull ourselves out of those stuck situations. Um, so yeah, I do that a lot of mornings. I'm also a big fan of Joe Dispenza, and he talks about heart coherence and getting into that space of just becoming nothing, becoming everything and nothing all at once. And it immediately gets you into a coherent space where, and every time I do it, my heart just totally blows up and expands. Like, just, it's so amazing. And it's a
Could
beautiful
you
creation space.
people are gonna be curious about that. The emptiness sometimes can be a little bit of a scary thought. Um, are you talking about his heart-centered, meditation?
Yeah, yeah,
The guided
he has different
meditation?
ones out there,
Mhm.
but any of the ones that work with heart coherence, um, and there's so much out there. He's done so much. I would highly recommend going to his website and downloading some of his different meditations, but anything you can do to get yourself outside of you,
Can you
basically.
explain the concept of what you're doing with that work? Because it's very powerful.
Yeah, so basically we get so micro in our lives. We think, okay, I've got this rent to pay, I've got this relationship that isn't working, or I've got this job I don't like, whatever it is, we get so micro in our experience and we're just in the depths of the despair or the difficulty of it. And the beauty of doing something like that is it connects you back to your true being and it allows you to expand because you're so much more than this one moment in this experience, right? And oftentimes we're living in the past or the future. We're not even living in the true now, except that we're experiencing the lack now, the lack of what we want in this moment. Um,
Yeah, polarity and contrast.
right. But what this does is it takes you beyond that. It takes you to the bigger picture. It reminds you who you truly are energetically and spiritually. And it takes you outside of this little micro experience into the macro where your true power is. And so when you can really align with that true power of who you are from a very heart centered space, you suddenly can shift things that you didn't know you could shift.
How I might distill that for some people that are curious more about that is you're getting out of your head and into your heart
Yeah.
and accessing the energy of your heart. The gratitude practice is one way to do that, but spending time, and I think in my guide, I say, give yourself at least 20 minutes. Some people might give yourself 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you're willing to give to yourself, but put yourself in that space to take on the day.
Well, and it's funny, I highly recommend people watch some Joe Dispenza interviews. And because every time I listen to him, I pick up something different and something new that I didn't quite get to the depth that I'm getting in that moment. And one of the things that I've heard him say multiple times is if he's ever in an emotional space where he's not in that gratitude, heart centered, heart coherent space, he will take the time to get in there because as long as he does that, things start really working in his favor. If he does not do that, it's kind of a messy day. So just like you said, like sometimes he says if it takes him 20 minutes, that's great. If it takes him, a couple hours, he will not go to work until he gets into that space. And So he just, I guess, adjusts for it somehow. I don't know when people have like 9 to 5 jobs and they can't they
Yeah, not
can't do that.
everybody doesn't have that luxury.
Right. But still, at the very least, like you're saying, if you can even just take a moment to get into a space of just pure gratitude, don't think about the lack, don't think about the things that aren't working at the moment. Think about the things that are working and that you can be grateful for. It opens up your heart, and that's your power generator.
And so one of the things I write about is getting into that space and then writing out maybe 3 to 5 things that you can do to, I would say attack, that's maybe a more violent way of saying it, but to face the problems, right? Like, we all have problems. Problems are the fuel for growth. So what can I do today, right now, to start to make progress on those things? And you're only gonna get to a few of them really, right? You don't wanna write sometimes people get into this mode. They write 100 things, you're not gonna get to all those things today, and then you more than likely, you're gonna feel bad that you didn't get to nearly any of them, and then you perpetuate a more negative cycle. So 3 to 5 concrete things that you can accomplish today to make it a, net positive.
Yeah, I love it. I think we should do that throughout the day too, but, like, as soon as something happens, that you're like, "Oh, yeah." Even if it's like a cup of coffee or someone just said, "Hey, you look good today," or something. Thank you.
Acknowledge those things.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
in the moment, yeah, as much as possible.
Uh, okay. So we're on the same page with that. What are some other things? Right about taking care of your body. Um, one of the things that, when someone starts to show signs of depression or sort of like a lack of zest for living is they stop taking as good a care of their
Mhm.
body. Um, that can affect your energy. Um, so making sure you're taking care of the body, hygiene, that kind of stuff. And then also moving the body, right? So the whole
Yeah.
concept of movement is medicine. Make sure you're moving. If you're feeling stuck, moving will help that energy move. So it's not staying there. But if you sit on the couch and are stewing on something, it's gonna just sit there.
Yeah, I absolutely believe in all of that, and, this body of ours, it's a mind, body, spirit complex, so what you eat is really important because you need to fuel it physically and you need to detox it too. Detox is so important, especially in current times because we have so many toxins, right? And those toxins can affect our ability to connect and our emotions and everything. So, and same with food. So, if you're not getting enough amino acids, so maybe you don't eat enough protein or something, you might get depressed or, there's just so many aspects to it all. If you eat a lot of, prepackaged foods, you're not getting enough nutrition,
No,
and
I'm pretty convinced now that we're poisoning ourselves.
yes, pretty deeply. Yeah, but, so I've seen a lot of people who are very spiritual who don't necessarily take care of their body, maybe the way they should, and it's not a judgment, it's just I
It's
think we
hard.
get. Yeah, and, facing maybe what's going on, a lot of us, maybe if our Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they talk about it in psychology a lot. So, it's that triangle that has the different levels and layers of needs to really be your best and be a fully healthy, functioning person. But the very base level is your security. It's do you have the base needs to feel secure? And then you move on up to, your spiritual connection and your ability to connect or commune with God. And along the way, a lot of people, because there's so much wounding in those lower aspects, and it's just like the chakras. It's, I always use it as an example with the chakras. It's the same thing. As you move on up the chakras, which this is your connection on the crown of your head, is your connection to God. The root, which is at the base of your spine, is more about your security. So with all of that, if you don't have those base levels met and yet you're still trying to connect, it's going to be a very distorted, usually, kind of connection. And So that's why taking care of the physical body or taking care of things that are not feeling secure in your life, it's an important part of things. And if you're feeling stuck, it might be because there's something, with your physical body in this part of the conversation that you're not really addressing. Maybe there's toxicity, some sort of a bad habit, or you're just not eating well, or you know, I think you even put in your blog, just like cleansing appropriately, taking care of yourself. I mean, there are a lot of
Well,
people that don't. And
that's the food you eat, right? Like the spoken
yes,
word, that vibrational energy, when you bless your food at a psychic level, removes or neutralizes the negative vibrations in it. So
yes,
blessing it with love and respect so that it's more I read, like, it's more readily digested and nourishing to your body. But
yeah,
I've also heard, some of the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton where, epigenetics, like talking to your cells in your body to accept the food with love and utilize the food in a way that is best for your body, like on the other end of that. So asking
yeah,
your body to utilize that food for good, which is very fascinating. We talk about like eating disorders and things like that, and just how we view food in general. You know,
yeah. I think it's, what do they say? I think it's more of a Christian point of view, but cleanliness is next to godliness, right?
yeah,
But I think it's really more just about the honoring of your physicality, the honoring of your body, the honoring of your space, you know, and that includes the way you eat, and how you take care of the inside of the body too.
yeah, absolutely. I don't write about water in the blog, but that is another big issue that is on there in the I don't know what you want to call it, the health freedom world, but just drinking pure, clean water, blessing your water, drinking structured water, that
Yeah.
is not filled with fluoride and things like that, among other toxins.
Yes, which we could totally get into another time probably, because I think we have a lot more to cover. That would be a great conversation though.
Oh,
Where are the
absolutely.
toxins coming from? Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't even mention it in this guy. Oh, alright. And then I part of the gratitude practice too, you could put it in there, but is to have some type of, mantra or affirmation or prayer to kinda help you get going. Something that centers you in a way or that is meaningful to you. Um, there's a prayer that I use that I share in the blog. I won't read it here, but it's just from my studies with, Paramahansa Yogananda's life lessons, um, which I find very helpful, but, it tends to be more spiritual. But then you have something like, Louise Hay, where she'll say, "I claim my own power and lovingly create my own reality. I trust the process of life." Very simple, and just something you can say to yourself to get going, to kick off your day. And I give another or a number of examples that are secular, but they're in there, you can go check it out, but I just feel like that's helpful to get going, like, you get in your car, you turn the engine on, like, give it some love, give it some gas. That's how I look at that.
I love it.
So I toe the line in this blog between, like, metaphysical things and mindfulness. So,
I think it's awesome, yes. What else you
uh,
got?
well, don't feed your mind negative thoughts, and then I talk about the story of the 2 wolves.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
like, some people just get caught up in these negative cycles of thinking, and they're not aware of them. I'll say that most people are not aware of how many negative thoughts they're having or judgments or ways that they're putting themselves down,
Mhm.
uh, and you really do yourself a disservice if you're doing that. It's where you're really feeding this negativity or this inner critic in your mind that is not allowing you to achieve higher levels. So if you're feeling stuck, chances are you're probably putting yourself down and, like, almost, like, holding yourself there, and until you realize that and, like, once you do, you can cut the chain, right, and start to, work in a more constructive manner.
Well, it's funny. I tend to well, I definitely who does not have negative thoughts at all? And I tend to catch them usually. Then it's always a choice of whether or not I wanna change them because if I'm really upset in the moment, it's like, I don't know if I wanna change this thought. I'm kind of digging it right now. But I also then remind myself that this isn't really serving me. And while I might feel justified in my frustration or whatever it is that's, less than love, I try to be like, well, all right, well, let's just try to find a more helpful way to look at things. And one time I had a client, she's younger, and she made a comment. She's like, "Was that toxic positivity?" And I was like, "What is toxic positivity?" I had never heard that term.
I
I
hear
was
it a
like
lot.
I was like, "Well, if that was toxic positivity, then bring me more," because I'd rather have toxic positivity than negative, more like toxic negativity. But at the same time, we do wanna be honest with ourselves and a situation and not just always see something with rose-colored glasses. So, how would you recommend somebody do that where they're seeing it pretty realistically or as realistically as they feel like they can, but not living in the negative of it?
So, I throw in a, Shuru, Suzuki quote, "Leave your front door and back door open. Allow your thoughts to come and go. Just don't serve them tea." I can have a negative thought, but I don't have to feed it. Uh,
Yes.
Another way I write in the blog is to turn the blue thought, a negative thought, to a true thought. That's more of like a cognitive behavioral, technique, but, what is the blue thought? I I don't know, not good enough. Alright, well, write 3 true thoughts that either are neutral or positive, but true,
Right. I
right?
love it.
Like, they have to be true. And you'll find that your negative thoughts are never really true, right? It's not true unless you make it so.
Well, and it's interesting because, there are so many points of view and perspectives, and any one person can look at you. Let's just say because, I don't know, maybe you care about what other people think, or you're doing something and you want people to, appreciate what you're doing and what you're putting out in the world. But every single person's going to have their own individual point of view about the thing, So if you have that situation or that person, is any of it 100% truth? So even if you're seeing yourself a certain way, it's not necessarily true. And you can always spin it into a different direction and really focus on the aspects that you appreciate about whatever that is and help that to expand. Because whenever you're thinking about the negative, that's what expands. So, as far as like manifestation and what you're trying to bring into your experience, but at the same time, you don't want to ignore certain things because maybe it is harmful or, like a person in your life is not necessarily, maybe you can try to see the good in them, but maybe they're also toxic and it's time to leave. And that's one of those things where it's sometimes hard to navigate.
You can from a mindfulness perspective, you can be true and give yourself honest feedback without doing it in a very toxic way. You don't have to beat yourself up. What I teach people is to work on cultivating your inner compassionate coach. The voice in your head that instead of being critical or sabotaging or harsh is more encouraging, supportive, kind, and loving.
Right. And it's a choice though. When we
It is a
So talk
choice.
about the two wolves.
Well, the two wolves is this I don't know if it's Cherokee or Native American story where a grandfather is telling his son about, there's a war going on and each person has two wolves. One's a good wolf and one's a bad wolf. And the grandson's, like, well, it's super fascinating. Like, who wins, in the battle of good and evil? And the grandfather says to the grandson, the one you feed.
I love it. Yes.
So being aware of your mental landscape, right? Like being mindful of that. when you actually one of the things when you start doing mindfulness training is you start to see your thoughts almost like this ticker tape going across the screen, and they keep coming, right? And you have 60 plus thousand thoughts a day. So you have to discern for yourself what you're going to let impact you and what you're not. What can you accept and work on, or what can you let go of? And the quality of your thoughts will impact your mood, right? If I'm having constantly negative thoughts, I'm going to be dumping stress hormones in my body all day, which is
Yeah,
probably going to impact my physical and mental health. So it really behooves you to pay attention to that.
so true.
Um, I talk about Maya in this. Uh, I don't know. People are probably going to be. Maya is the belief that, I don't know, we're in this matrix, this simulation. Like there's a lot of illusion around us, and we get so caught up in it, but it's not real. And so being aware of that and realizing that you're never stuck. And one of the main points I try to make there is these are just, you're shown contrast and polarity to overcome them, I think, learn from them. And there's an infinite number of possibilities that are available to you if you pay attention. Um, so it's one of optimism and hope, knowing that you're not stuck. Um, I make a big point in there that you have to pay attention to what you are consuming. Um, there's this collective cloud of negative news on the internet, television, social media. If you're plugged into that and that's all you're getting, that's all Maya. That's not real, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, whatever Instagram person you influencers, right? Like a whole career path now.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny, I was just doing a channeling, and, one of the things that the guide had said that I was channeling was, we're always consuming. We're always consuming. That's part of the experience here. We're consuming. We're consuming food and water, love, relationships, energy, information, lots of information. We're learning and growing all the time. Even when you're not trying, you're consuming it constantly. And what they said was choose where you consume. You can consume in those higher spaces where you're consuming all that amazing energy and love and wisdom, or you can consume in the lower spaces where you're bringing in, maybe partial truths or points of view, and it's or just, bad thoughts, things that are going to stress you out, whatever it is, right? Those thoughts, those things that aren't really helping. And so the suggestion is think about consuming from a higher space. Where are you consuming? And it was interesting. You start to realize how much you do consume in the lower spaces. And it's not that you shouldn't consume in the lower spaces because we all need to, we were human. But where is the majority of your consumption coming from? Is it coming from the bigger, wider, more loving space, or is it coming from that little microcosm spectrum of craziness that we're all a part of? And so I don't know. That just to me, that's just so beautiful. Thinking about what are you consuming on all levels.
You can consume news, just be aware of the hidden agendas behind what you are
Yes.
consuming. Be open-minded to what you are hearing.
And some of it, I like that front door and back door analogy because some of it you just need to let it wash through and
Sure.
not take it so precisely because it's usually not that accurate.
No, it that's the thing, right? Like, um there's a guy, oh god, his podcast interview with ED, Ruben Langdon. He
Mm.
was just, working with another channel who was talking about this, right? Where it's like, well, what about these people that I'm trying to, like, wake up? "Hey, you might not wanna do this or support this or be careful what you're doing here or what you're consuming, or using this product." And the higher wisdom that came through was, "You gotta worry about you. Don't worry about them. Like, they're on their own path, basically. You don't have to worry about educating them or that kinda stuff."
Yeah.
And in some sense, almost like you feel like this relief wash over him, and, it's a very, I would say, noble gesture, right? Like, I wanna help people, eat healthy food or live healthy lives or, not be subjugated by this or that, um, but we're all on our own path. So,
Yes.
the people that are gonna listen to this and if you're listening to this right now, there's a reason why. So it's you what I've noticed on my own journey is at various points when I needed to learn something different or, like, something appeared in my path that I could consume and learn from. Whether it was, like, your son Jacob being like, "Hey, man, like, there are some things out here that you might be interested in." And it's like what?" Like, in this whole other world opens up, right, where it's all these other interesting things. I would say sort of leveling up, but, you know, being paying attention to the people that are around you. I also get into sort of, like, your company that you keep. Are you around people that are evolved, that are
Yeah.
performing at a higher level? That I feel like is very important, for people to know. And maybe it sounds obvious, but when you're around people that perform at a higher level, you perform better. When you're
Yeah.
hanging out with people that aren't, you know,
Well,
I'm
that's pretty
sure.
much what anyone who's ever had big success says. You need to find mentors and people to hang with that are where you want to be and choose to keep up leveling. Yeah. My brother used to say, "You are who you hang with."
Yeah, I didn't realize. So if you're listening to this, one interesting thing you can do is write a list, of people in your life and put out, like, what do you get out of the relationship? Like, what do you give, and, what do you get?
Yeah,
You
and it's
know?
not to be in judgment of anyone, but it's
No.
it's just to become aware of you're here for you and your evolvement. um, period. And we often do that through helping others and other things, but we are here for our involvement. And when you're looking to get unstuck in some area of your life, well, who around you is also stuck? Who around you has succeeded through that thing that you're looking to get unstuck? Because they're more like your mentors. They're more, they've walked that path or done something that you're looking to do. That's where you're gonna learn and grow. You're not gonna learn from the person who's stuck in there with you.
Yeah, um, very important thing. Um, so I give a couple practices too. A lot of times people are having problems in relationships, or they, are in a sort of tit for tat, whether it's like a separation, divorce situation or something else, or maybe it's a business partner or whatnot. But I shared the example of the Ho'oponopono.
Mm.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I love it.
So it's just one of those things that can move energy, right? Like in the field of energy psychology, which is, I think, slowly learning, like, okay, there's these things that have existed for a long time that are actually helpful. But the Ho'opono is, I don't know if you call it a prayer or a mantra, but it's, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And if you just repeat those words over and over and you have a heart, you're going it's going to shift you into
Yes.
a more heart-centered place. You know, I think there was studies where they had people who had, written each other off for decades, and then they get in a room and they sit and see each other eye to eye. These are the things that start to happen when you make that connection, like that, uh, reintegration maybe from polarity to unity, right? Like, "I am you." And then you start to feel that heart connection again and, forgiveness, really.
We actually did that at a retreat one time where we partnered up with a partner,
Uh-huh.
and so, yeah, I think we had 12 people there, and these people were facing each other, and one row was seated, so 6 people were stationary, and then the other ones would rotate. So we had, and I can't remember all the different variations of the Ho'oponopono that we did, but there
Mhm.
was one that was just like, just somebody that you love, right? And that's how we started, nice and easy, and I always like to say, "I love you" first. "I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you." So I always do a little twist on that. And then sometimes I even add, "I love you and I forgive you" back, especially if it's, somebody really did you wrong, it just helps to, you're in that loving space, it helps to work on that too. Um, but so we did this. We started off with something very simple, like just somebody that you love and care about. Then we moved into parents, saying it to your parents, which, most people have something there with their parents. Even if they have a great relationship, there's a little something there that you can
Mhm.
work through. And then we did it to somebody that we really struggled with, so we pretended that the other person, our partner, was the person we wanted to say it to, and we were looking in their eyes. So it'd be like if you and me, Jim, were partners and I was looking in your eyes and you were somebody who, I don't know, maybe you're my father, right? And I'm like, "I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." And we would just keep repeating that.
Yeah.
And, people are crying and tearing up. And then we get to the end, which is I'm looking at you, Jim, and you're me. And I'm telling myself through your eyes the same thing. "I love you. I'm sorry." Everybody was just bawling. It was such a deep experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's variations in different, inner child regression
Yes.
work and Gestalt therapy, those conversations, which are very cathartic, but very emotional.
Oh, so powerful.
Powerful, yes.
Yes.
Uncomfortable for sure.
Yes. But, everybody, they knew they were coming in for a deep experience, so they were ready for that, and, it just everybody's heart opened. It was so beautiful.
Oh, my therapist would always say this, like, "It's all terribly wonderful, isn't it, Jim?"
That's a wonderful saying.
Like, oh.
So true.
But you have to want to get better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Robbins says the problem with people is they believe they're not supposed to have any problems,
Oh, wow, that's good. Yes,
you know?
that's true.
"Yeah, I have this problem." "Okay, welcome to the club."
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and, one of the things I tell a lot of my clients is everything that you're doing is a choosing. You're choosing it constantly. So whether you're staying stuck and not doing what you need to do to get out of being stuck, if you're not choosing to meditate, if you're not choosing to find a different job or to find a different partner or a different friend or whatever it is that's not working in your life, if you continue to have that problem, if you're not choosing something different, you're choosing the thing. And it doesn't mean that you won't have to wait or figure things out or, God's timing, there's always a right time for everything. So maybe you aren't landing the job you're looking for because it hasn't come yet. But there might be other things you can do, and it's always a choosing. Even just how you think about it, it's a choosing.
Yeah, it's really hard for people, like, to accept that they have created what they're in. I had a client just the other day who, someone told me that I created this mess. I'm like, "Obviously." It doesn't matter when you get to that point, but it is helpful to know, like, I chose this. Um, Contrast that with other people, right? Or I remember another client saying, "Well, why would I have chosen that?" Well, makes you think. So then it's like, okay, you're not ready to accept that you had a role in this. So play a game. Hypothetically, you chose this problem. What would you want to learn from it?
Mhm.
Um, you know, I had another Tony Robbins quote. I'm not so much into him, but maybe I'm gonna move into that direction. Uh, Good times create weak people create bad times create strong people, and strong people create good times. Um, so if you could
That
start to
cycle.
shift your perspective into something like that, it's far more positive and constructive. I don't think it's toxic. Like, you're not saying I don't have problems. That's what I say is more toxic positivity. But
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not real. It's not based in reality. I mean, yeah, we got some things going on.
yeah, the rose-colored glasses, like, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
everything's good. Maybe, maybe not. Probably not.
But you always do have a choice in how you want to approach it. And getting into your power, into a more powerful state is always a good way to start. And that heart coherence is a wonderful thing. Coming back to gratitude and really circling around to getting yourself in the right energetic space and monitoring your thoughts. It's also important.
I did not add this in the blog, but it's something that we, dive into sometimes in the, MBSR, the mindfulness-based stress reduction class, and it's the autobiography in 5 short chapters. Are you familiar with it at all?
No, no, tell me.
Okay. I'll just read it. It's very quick. Autobiography in 5 short chapters, and this is, I get her name correct. Portia Nelson. Um, so chapter 1, I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in.
Oh no.
It's a habit. It's my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down a different street.
I love that. Yes.
Um, we get to the poem after you've fallen in the hole many times,
Yeah.
partially by design.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is a very good illustration of, how we approach problems, right? Like, and those things will keep on repeating unless you fix them.
Very true. Yeah.
So that's a little bit about that. So if you're feeling or you're feeling stuck and you want to, you know, find a way to get unstuck, those are some things that I've written out in the blog on my website, journeymindfulness.com. So please check it out. And feel free to reach out to us and some of the services that we offer. Jen, you have a number of, well, services that you offer that are wonderful and very helpful in your energy work. Um, and what else? And also just a number of providers at your wellness center, which are amazing, and your
Yeah.
cafe, which, I wanted to make a point. When I feel stuck, or if I intentionally go to your cafe and get some nice organic coffee and sit in one of the comfortable chairs and journal. Like, that's like a sanctuary for me. Like, it's so a lot of times people say, like, "Well, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I find a nice, beautiful place to go to where I can be calm and positive and then try to figure out how to get out of the hole that I
That's
found
funny.
myself."
Yeah. Get out of the hole. Yeah. Yeah, so true. Thank you. Yeah, and you do some
So,
great work too. Yeah, you helped me with some things with, you did a past life regression with me, and it helped me move some stuck areas of my life, so thank you.
um, I have a loyal listener who had a question about when you say, "I'm talking to my guides."
Okay.
What is that process? Who are you talking to? And how did that begin? Maybe you could share some insights
Oh, that's kind
or
of a story.
whatever you're
Okay.
willing to share.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty open with it. So I used to be a computer programmer, and my mind is very logical and linear, and that's just how I think. And I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever be doing this. Um, but I did have signs along the way, and I was always fascinated with anything metaphysical. It always fascinated me. So I dove in, and a lot of it was because of my son Jacob. And he was naturally very spiritual. So he got me into the idea of being able to really talk to God. That was my original standpoint. I didn't know what the universe was or anything like that. I just started connecting. And my very first attempts were through this book. I can't remember the name of the lady who wrote it, um, but it was titled "How to Talk with God." And so it had a CD in the background, and the back fold of the book. So this was way back in the day. And I put the CD on my Walkman and started meditating. But we all have guides and angels. We have our higher selves. We have so many wise helpers who are here to support us in this really crazy journey that we're on in this place. And everybody has a different number of guides. You have what I kind of lovingly refer to as your case manager.
Your main guide.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're getting ready to start a business, you have guides for that. If you're getting ready to do something on social media, you have guides for that. If you're working through a relationship, you have guides for that. They kinda come in and out. Some of them for, maybe only days, some of them more for months, some of them for years. And you can connect with any of them and try to get guidance. And, but at the very least, I really think it's important for people to connect with their higher selves. There's different points of view about what your higher self is. And I tend to be of the belief that it's, according to the law of one, it's the future you. And it's the higher, wiser future you. And that you can connect with that and get that wisdom that you need for going through whatever you're going through. And I know when I first started learning how to connect with my guides, get intuitive information, and channel, I didn't want to talk to my higher self because I was like, my higher self is me. I want something wiser than me. I didn't quite get it. But it's really important to connect to your higher self in all of this.
I would say too, with the past life regression, you're connecting with your higher self.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
It has the information and the knowledge.
Yes. Yes.
Um, would you say too, like with things like tarot and whatnot, like is that's connecting to your higher self, right? Or your guides?
I mean, it really depends. Even using a pendulum or anything like that, anything that you're using to gather information that you don't know from a
Mhm.
metaphysical space, you can have an intention behind it.
Yeah.
So you can ask your own subconscious, you can ask like a higher self, you can ask your angelic guides or healers, you can ask the ascended masters. If you are a Jesus follower, you can call in Jesus, whatever it is to bring in more wisdom, you
Mhm.
can do that. And, I don't think, a lot of different spiritualities or religions might think that connecting with, guides in this way, or that it's not okay, it's not of God. I think it's totally opposite of that. I think God has given us so many helpers to support us in this whole process. They are of God. Um,
Yeah, and that's one of the main points of my blog is to, it I'll use the word God, but
yeah,
wants you to thrive, right?
right.
It's supportive and loving, and it's not here to punish you.
Yeah. I mean, just like Jim, you and I might be in a conversation. You might say something that just is exactly what I needed to get me unstuck, right? You might be the person that God or universe, creator, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah,
is using to help me and support me. The guides are the same way. Your guides, your angels, it's the same thing. It's just you're
yeah.
able to tune in and get that frequency of information. And
So people can learn how to do that.
yeah,
I
it's
think,
intuitive development. Yeah.
uh,
Some people are more naturally gifted at it. I had to work at it. I've really developed mine over time. My son Jacob was very naturally gifted.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I hope that
Well,
helps.
well, thank you for that. No, it's, as in this process, this is fantastic to talk about. People want to learn, as we talk about things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for asking, and thank you to your person, your loyal listener.
Ah, yes. All right. Thank you. Till next time.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
We are so grateful that you joined us. Check out the description to learn more about us and also for additional resources to help you on your journey.